Welcome to the Leverage Your Influence podcast, where we talk to entrepreneurs and creatives who are leveraging their influence, impact, and income through podcasting. Today, our guest is passionate about podcasting and compliance. He is a leading voice in the conversation of compliance, award-winning entrepreneur. He is the author of over 30 books on the topic of compliance. And today, we're honored to have the compliance guru himself, Mr. Tom Fox. Welcome to the Leverage Your Influence podcast.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Yes, sir. Glad you are here. So, Tom, for those who don't know who you are, tell us an overview of your story and what sparked the compliance fire in you.
I'm a lawyer by professional background. I was a trial lawyer for 25 years, burned out of that, decided to go into the corporate world, did contracts for a major oil field service company all over the world, lived all over the world, and then leveraged that to become a general counsel of another oil field service company. That company violated the U.S. law around bribery and corruption. And from that experience, I learned about compliance. My company got sold, the job went away. I decided what I really wanted to do with my life was race bicycles. So I went off on this great adventure to race bicycles. I was over 50. I could ride in the senior division
All right.
until one training ride. I got taken out by a Hummer. That ended my cycling career. And after putzing around for 8 weeks or so, and I finally had enough energy to get on my walker and toddle into my office. This was now 2010. I decided that what I really had enjoyed in my last job was building compliance programs inside of corporations. There were very few lawyers doing this in 2010. So the only thing I had on my hands was time. I had no work, I had no clients, I had no business. And so at that point in my life, I knew nothing about social media. So I started exploring social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. This is before Instagram. And I started blogging and decided to become the nuts and bolts guy in compliance. So I did that. The blogging led to podcasting. It was a natural outgrowth of my marketing efforts. And I started podcasting in 2012. I decided to found a network dedicated to compliance in the podcast arena in 2017. In 2020, it blew up during the pandemic
Yeah.
because up until that time, all marketing was done in person. And since that time, I've tried to consolidate the explosion of growth I had in my podcast network around compliance. I don't say it very loudly and I don't say it very often, but I still practice law. But don't tell anyone because they might want to send me work. So I live in two worlds. I live in the compliance world and I live in the podcast world, and I love them both equally, depending on which one I'm in. And I'm in a podcast right now, so I love podcasting.
Yeah. Say that. So thank you for sharing an overview of your story. So what is your personal definition of compliance?
My personal definition of compliance is doing business ethically within the rules leads to more efficient business processes, leads to more greater profitability or return on investment.
All right. Now, when it comes to podcasting, how important is compliance when it comes to storytelling and authenticity and the ethics of podcasting?
So, can I flip that to say, why is podcasting so important to compliance?
Yes.
But you actually gave me that answer, which is the storytelling. In the corporate compliance world, you have customers, except those customers are called employees. Well, if they were customers and you were trying to sell them something, you would tell them a story about why they should buy your product. Compliance officers are lawyers like me. We were never taught that skill. We were taught the skill of here's the law, follow it,
Right.
or we will hit you over the head with this big stick. Well, that doesn't work in 2025. You have to tell people a story. You have to make it engaging. You have to give people snippets. You have to give them social media outreach. You have to communicate with them on the platform they want to be communicated on.
Mhm.
not necessarily a laptop, certainly not a written piece of paper, maybe not even an email. It may be on their smartphone. It may be a two-sentence paragraph in a Slack channel. And so it is the storytelling of podcasting that translates to compliance. And what I'm trying to do with people like you, frankly, is tell compliance and teach compliance professionals this is what you do to communicate. You
Mm.
tell stories. And so I think podcasting informs compliance more
Yeah,
than compliance informs podcasting.
I like that. I like that. Powerful answer. Now, I'm going to poke you and prod you a little bit because you are an attorney, lawyer, and there are many law practices that exist. And a lot of these practices want to be top of mind, and they want to be known for their expertise and their niche. So, how can a law firm leverage podcasting with its unique challenges?
Absolutely. And I think the podcast format is, if not the best, one of the best ways to do for. You mentioned earlier in the green room my friend Megan Doherty. Well, Megan wrote a book last year called Podcasting for Business. In that book, yes, she gives 5 reasons for a business to have a podcast, which I fully subscribe to. Number one, thought leadership. Number two, relationship building. Number three, audience engagement. Number four, content creation. And number five, sales. A law firm, a business, an entrepreneur can use any or all 5 of those outcomes of podcast for their business. So if we keep it to law firms, it is you certainly want to show your thought leadership. You want to show you're an expert in an area. You mentioned niche, and that's the reason for the Compliance Podcast Network. I wanted to go as narrowly as I could, but as deeply as I could.
Yeah.
So the niches and the riches, or whatever idiom you want to use, it's absolutely true. Relationship development. If I sent you an email and said, my name is Tom Fox, I'm this great lawyer, I'd like to call you up and tell you about my legal services, might or might not respond. If I mail you and say, my name is Tom Fox, I have this podcast, I want you to come on my podcast and talk about you, I will get 100% response 100% of the time, positive. Audience engagement. I tell this story on 2 women who have a podcast in my network called Great Women in Compliance. When they started their podcast, they started a Great Women in Compliance LinkedIn group.
Hmm.
They even further defined it by an acronym, GWIC. So they're the GWIC girls. Everybody knows them as that. But they created an entire community of women in compliance, and their engagement is incredible. It's niche. It filled a market need. It's engaging, and everybody loves them. And so you can do the same for your law firm. You can do the same for your business. Content creation. The podcast format can give you a podcast. It can give you a blog. It can give you multiple social media marketing sharing creations, videograms or audiograms. It can give you a book. It can give you a white paper. The limit of things a podcast can create is only your imagination.
Yeah.
And I've used all of those. And then finally is sales. I struggle to understand how a sale could be accomplished by a podcast, but I watched a woman interview a customer last week. And the customer was going through, here's why I like your product, but it's missing this. And she said, we have a fix for that. Let me send it to you at the end of this podcast.
Huh.
And she said it in a way, it was completely subtle. Only he and I picked up on it. And I just thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
She actually made a sale in the middle of the pod. So you can do all of those things with the podcast format. Plus, you get to hang out with cool people like you all day long.
Right. Right. The most important currency in podcasting is relationships. And
Yep.
You're right. There's so many amazing ways that you can leverage your influence as an organization through podcasting. Now, I love this term called pod hacking, where you can use the podcast to get what you want. And Megan kind of outlines that in her book. Depending on what your goals are, you can literally work toward those goals with a podcast. Now, when you talk about the Compliance Podcast Network and some of the things that you would like to do or explore in the future, or potential clients, like would you love to manage the presidential podcast in the political sphere, or is there a certain lane that you want to dominate in the future?
Um, I have two metrics and two metrics only for a successful podcast. Number one, how much did I learn? Number two, how much fun did I have?
Uh-huh.
That's it. What that leads to is podcasts I want to do. So, Star Trek and compliance, Star Wars and compliance, MCU and compliance, Deep Space Nine and compliance, Shakespeare and compliance, sports and compliance, every The Great Gatsby in compliance,
Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh in compliance, James Joyce's Ulysses in compliance. I just do all of those from the compliance perspective.
Huh.
And it's not that I want to dominate one niche. I want to explore. I mean, I do for 7 years in a row, I've done the full Star Trek, the original series, all 79 episodes every summer, starting June 1, podcast series. And as my wife says, this is just an excuse to rewatch every episode, isn't it? And I'm like, yep, you're right. So I just finished all 56 Sherlock Holmes short stories
Wow.
from the compliance perspective. Now I'm on the novels. And my wife said, are you going to quit before you get to the movies? I said, no.
Huh.
So, and what about the TV shows? I'm like, don't
Yeah.
even get started on
Yeah.
those. So it's just an excuse for me to either study things I love and enjoy or talk about them. So
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about controlling or owning that vertical. I'm much more interested in having fun.
That's nice. That you can use your podcast to explore your passions and
Right.
enjoy the process along the way, which is phenomenal. Now, for your personal network with compliance, do you have a favorite genre? Like, do you like true crime, or do you just love all genres?
Are you talking about for me and my network or for
Yes.
what I listen to?
Let's stay with your network.
Um, hmm. No, because I'm curious about so many things.
Okay.
I'd never read the full Sherlock Holmes novels before. There are four of them. I love doing that. It's the 100th anniversary of The Great Gatsby. So I've already thought through a whole series on The Great Gatsby. I just published a book today, or it was published today. So I'm going to do a podcast series on that book.
Awesome.
Those are some of the things that I've got in the short term.
Awesome. Now I'm going to veer our conversation into the direction of compliance and artificial intelligence. How can we leverage AI while using it responsibly?
Well, a couple of things to start with. Remember, I'm a lot older than you, so I learned this phrase in college: GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. If you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. You have to remember that AI is a function of everything that's in it, plus you. So I'm a huge prompt engineer guy. I use a lot of prompts. But when I prompt it, it means it's going to get my biases, whatever they are, because I start every prompt. You are a blogger. You are a podcaster in the compliance space, podcasting in the style of Tom Fox, the compliance evangelist. Write a set of show notes for the attached podcast. So be aware of the bias. Number two, always disclose that you use AI in your process. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think it seems to be the fair thing to do. But it will increase your efficiency exponentially. There was, do you use Descript?
I don't, but I'm familiar with the platform.
Okay. Well, a couple of years ago, around the time Descript came out, some college students developed their own Descript-like tool. And so I tried to support them by subscribing to their service. And one time I sat down, I do these 5-part podcast projects, record, edit, type show notes, type a blog. It used to take me 20 hours to do 5. And one time I had the opportunity to sit down. I had 2 days blocked out to do it. I'd finish in 3 hours.
Wow.
Everything. And that's the kind of efficiency you're going to get. 10x, 20x, maybe 100x. Chat GPT, Descript, auditing tools, it doesn't matter. But remember, it's an assistant.
Right.
It is a research assistant, it's an editorial assistant. Whatever you do, don't post what it gives you without editing it or eyeballing it. So it's never going to be perfect. You probably heard the stories of the lawyers who filed some briefs where they used ChatGPT and it made up some cases and everybody laughed, ha ha ha, stupid lawyers. The point I got was never give something to your public, whether that's a judge, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's my listening public, without putting a set of eyeballs on it
Yeah.
and checking it. So you can use it a hugely effective efficiency tool. It can write your show notes. It can write out all your social media shares. You can use it in your editing process, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So, in this time that we're in, where a lot of folks make comments or statements or produce content that gets them canceled or removed from a platform or reported on a platform for expressing their viewpoints. When it comes to compliance and the freedoms that we have with our speech and with our voice as podcasters, how do you encourage people to do it responsibly, but also authentically without fearing not using their voice or expressing themselves?
Well, so as lawyers, we were taught if you write opinion, say it's opinion. If I write a blog post that's opinion, I say this is Tom's opinion. And if I write a blog post that's based on somebody else's opinion, I not only say it's somebody else's opinion, I put a link to their original post in. So I'm a big believer in just cite to whatever it is you're using it for. But you are spot on. This is a time when we all need to share our own opinions and our own thoughts, and absolutely nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's the opposite. And in America, we celebrate that.
Yeah, yeah. And there are new platforms that are constantly evolving, emerging. I heard this platform called Blue Sky may eventually take over Twitter. And there are new platforms that exist like Threads. I don't know if you've tried out Threads yet, but it's
I haven't tried Threads, but remember Clubhouse came out during the
yes,
pandemic.
yes,
So people don't believe it now, but there was a time when Twitter was an incredibly valuable business tool.
mm,
And I tell people I actually made my name in compliance on Twitter.
wow,
Now, this was 2010. It was a very different platform back then. And now it's really hard to get through a lot of the noise on Twitter, but Blue Sky is trying to kind of go back to the original roots of Twitter. And I'm sure there'll be something else after that. So I guess the moral is platforms for communication are always evolving.
yeah, yeah. How important do you believe it is for content creators to have their own platform or place where they can house all of their ideas and intellectual property?
That's probably the most important thing a creator can do because you can rent space on you name the podcast platform, but you need to own all of your content. Absolutely positively. And I don't mean from a theft perspective, because people are always going to steal your ideas and they say, well, I changed it. Um, but nobody can steal your podcast and nobody can sell your podcast legally. So, um, however many podcasts you have, however much content you've created around those podcasts, whether you've written a book, whether you've written a blog post, whether you've just posted your podcast, you have something that's of value to sell. And that's why you want to own your intellectual property and house it in a place that's yours.
Yes. Now, there may be some content creators who are listening or watching who are growing a platform that is building an audience quickly, and they're thinking about trademarking their logo and trademarking their slogan for their show name and just, putting the flag down on everything they have content wise. Do you think that's wise to do, or is that an exercise of futility?
Well, my lawyer would tell me I absolutely need to do that. I don't listen to him all the time. So I think I've trademarked the compliance evangelist and I think I've trademarked the Compliance Podcast Network, but frankly, I can't even remember. But that's the only way to legally protect it. And there was two really top podcasters early on the how to doing podcasts, and one was a something called the Audacity to Podcast, and the guy who owned that somehow lost it. He never trademarked it,
Yeah.
and it took him 4 or 5 years to get it in his name because he was the first to use it. But he had to go through a legal process and it cost him a lot of money, but it was important to him. But the more you own, the more valuable that property will be.
Mm, that's powerful. Well said. Well said. Now, when it comes to podcasting and creating an LLC for your podcast to reap the tax benefits, things like that, what are your thoughts on people who want to take their podcasting seriously and operate it as a business to leverage in other ways, even if it does not become extremely profitable, but to just operate it like a business?
You absolutely need to do that. You need to have an LLC. It doesn't have to be the podcast LLC. So I've got the Compliance Podcast Network LLC, but you need to do that. You're absolutely right. For tax reasons, number one, if you don't, it goes into your ordinary income and it's taxed at a higher rate, which is always something to think about. And three, as a lawyer, I have to advise you that you have potential liability. And if you have it in a corporation, it is only the corporation they can reach. They can't reach back to you as an individual. So for liability purposes, it's important to have that corporate form in place. And let me just throw in, there is podcast insurance out there that is, I get $1 million in coverage for $400 a year.
Yeah.
And you cannot buy security like that
Yeah.
anywhere. And so uh, get insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. Podcast insurance. A lot of folks don't think about the fact that you may have gear, you may have assets, even your own intellectual property. At any given moment, it can be threatened by another person or entity. And you want to make sure that you have the backing to ensure that if you have to go to court to fight for something, you at least have a pot to dip into so that you're not, overexerting your own personal funds for your pod saving venture.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So Tom, what is your prediction on the future of podcasting over the next 10 to 20 years? People are talking about AI, but do you think there'll be something else coming behind that that may shift how we view podcasting or the nature of it?
I guarantee you there'll be something coming after that just because there's always something coming. What that does to podcasting, that I'm not quite sure, but I think podcasting is here to stay. I think I was a huge believer in the audio format. And for 10 years, I would tell people, I'm inside your head. I'm
Yeah,
inside your head. And as weird or as creepy as that sounded, it was right. What I didn't understand or I didn't know, there's neuroscience behind that. And I've now seen three presentations at three straight compliance conferences, which explained the four quadrants of the brain, what each is dedicated to, and how podcasting actually it doesn't change your brain, but it impacts your brain so that you remember it. And that's audio.
yeah,
Now, there's this huge brouhaha, and I
yeah,
mean insane, about is podcasting audio or is it video or is it both? And it's this debate between these old white guys, and it is the stupidest thing I have ever seen. It's like watching teenage boys in the locker room slapping each other with towels because there's one school that says, "Oh,
yeah,
don't even tell me about video." And then there's one school that says, everything has to be video.
yeah.
I think the point is use whatever channels you have.
That's right.
And a friend of mine had the best observation. I don't know if you are a yacht rock guy, but yacht rock was basically 76 to 84.
Mm,
What killed yacht rock? Not that it was crappy music, MTV.
mm,
Because MTV came out and people like Michael Jackson and others were doing video while the yacht rock people were making jazz rock music, and that took over.
yeah,
And he says that's a perfect example. A new medium comes And my daughter's 27, and my wife and I were having dinner with her, and my wife turned to her and her partner and said, "You would never watch a video podcast." And her partner says, "Oh, we do that all the time. That's
Yep.
a great way to spend Friday night together.
Yeah.
Watch a video pod on YouTube and have a glass of wine."
Yeah.
And I thought, when I was in college, Saturday Night Live came out. We would go to bars to watch Saturday Night Live.
Right.
It was that cool. Now that coolness will end at some point, but it's just another medium.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say that audio builds intimacy while video builds engagement.
I'm going to steal that.
Take it. Take it.
That's
Tell them you heard it from GP. Audio
I
builds
heard it from
intimacy.
GP.
Because if you think about the listeners, they are on the go and they're carrying you with them in their fulfilling their routines with you in their ear. And so whether they're cutting the grass, cooking, driving to work, you're a part of their journey, and there are fewer distractions. Unless their phone rings, the episode will pause. But if you're watching on video, CNN, ESPN can just give you a notification that can alter your attention to somewhere else, like a goldfish, right? So
Yep.
I truly believe that audio podcasts are the best way and most effective way to listen and to connect with an audience. My opinion.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Tom, let the folks know how they can connect with you, how they can connect with your network, the Compliance Podcast Network. If you want to shout out a few of your books, I know you have a lot of books, but if you want to give a shout out to where your books are, we want to let folks know where they can connect with you.
So I'm on all the social platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, Thomas R. Fox, Twitter, TFox Law. I'm on Instagram, Voice of Compliance, Facebook, the Compliance Podcast Network. That's my biggest site, the Compliance Podcast Network. You can email me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. I'd love to engage with you. I'd love to chat with you about podcasting. And I don't have a copy because literally it was released today, but I will give a shout out to my most recent book, Upping Your Game: How Compliance and Risk Managers Can Change the Management of Risk to 2030 and beyond. So I take a look at a deep dive into the use of AI in the corporate setting.
Amazing. Thank you, Tom, for sharing your story, your expertise, and your work on building the awareness of the importance of compliance in what we do. Thank you for joining us on Leverage Your Influence podcast and for your presence and time with us today.
Thank you so much.
No problem. To the audience who's listening or watching, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to sharing and learning with you in our next episode.